It's time for Who Watch Time and Relative Blackness in Space.
The Black Girls Have the Box.
Me and DJ are jumping right into the second episode of the season premiere, The Devil's Chord.
The Devil's Chord was written by showrunner Russell T Davies and directed by Ben Chessell. The official synopsis is the Doctor and Ruby meet the Beatles, but discover that the all-powerful Maestro is changing history. London becomes a battleground with the future of humanity at stake.
All right, so to recap, this was an episode. The Maestro, played by Drag Race star Jinx Monsoon, steals, takes music away. It was unclear in that moment, but yes, they take music away. Then they play the piano at the opening keys of the theme song, and then the theme song plays, and at the end of the theme song is played on the Chardon jukebox. So that was a really cool. I just love that little musical transition that happened there. That was cute. Okay, so Ruby chooses to go see the Beatles record their first record at the not yet named Abbey Road Studios. It's called EMI Recording Studios. And they travel, to 1963. And so we get the cute little, Ruby's like, what am I going to wear? And they go to the room and they pop out in their little 60s outfit. And I kind of personally felt like they should have done a little montage of them, trying on stuff and throwing clothes and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do that. But we did get, a good hero shot, good, angles of the outfits. We got to see it from, different vibes. And then, of course, they did on the way to the studio, crossing the crosswalk. Of course, they did it. Okay, they did it. So I'm already laughing because it's already funny. They go to the studio where the Beatles are putting down their track. When the engineer hits record, they start saying I have a dog. The dog is alive. The dog is not dead. I have a dog. Very much Ice Spice. I'm not sorry. I don't care. And so they are what is this? So they go to another studio, just to see, maybe they have an off day. Maybe this is how they ramp up, Go to another studio. The girl's we are in love. Love is love. Every day is love. And it was what? So they realized they have a bit of a moment of panic of wait a minute, something going on. They go into a room where they doing recording the whole orchestra. They're all right, they're gonna give it what we need right here. They get up in there with their one chord. They all A minor. Okay, I'm so sorry. But that's what happened. So it was not great. They were what happened to music? Why is music not musicking? It's not musicking? And so they go to the lunchroom where everybody is in this recording studio. This is apparently a thing that happens at recording studios. I don't know. I had never heard of it. But anyway, they in the lunchroom, the cafeteria. 15 talked to, I had to, because I don't know these white men. 15 talked to McCartney, I believe, and Ruby talks to Lennon, the Beatles. They what's going on? They was bruh, I just to do my little ditty, make my little money, ain't nothing to it. Ain't no thing. They're why y'all good music? They're ooh, for real, music? Oh, we don't do that. No, we don't do that here. But then, as they were recounting why they don't like music, they was but sometimes I think about music. And I start, it's just a moment. It was okay. I also should have prefaced this, but I'm gonna tell y'all now.
I really think we should have let Nick do this.
No, I should. No, it's not even that. So first off, I'm not a musical person. Let's start there. But let's also, when I first watched this episode, y'all, I said this in the previous episode. I took the edible about 20 minutes before the first episode. So most of that episode, I was mostly still together. I was still together. By this episode, it was hidden, right? And it's very funny because, I said, I felt it hit not mere moments before I have a dog. Like, so it was funny. Everything was much funnier, like much more entertaining that first night. I was hyped. So I need you to know that, so you can understand that I was really having a good time with it because I was on drugs. But yeah, so they just had the thing. Now they talking about not liking music, and then I guess they forget that they don't like music, or like they slip into like the old them, and they're like, actually, sometimes I dream about it. And then he started hitting the vocal on him. He was like, la la la. I don't know what he do. I don't remember. But everybody started like, damn, okay, come through. But then Maestro started popping up in all the cutlery, and it's like, ah. So they stop it. So they stopped the singing and carrying on, and then John and or Paul was like, why don't nobody talk about music? We ain't doing that. And they was like, okay, take it down, son. So then randomly the doctor was like, we're gonna put a piano on the roof. And they did. They put the piano on the roof. Then like why they waiting for the piano to be hoisted onto this roof for whatever inexplicable reason. Whatever it was. He telling Ruby about like, oh yeah, I used to live right somewhere over there. I was on Totter's Lane. Totter's Lane is where the junkyard was that him and his granddaughter lived in. Yes, they live in the junkyard. Let's talk about that. And he was just like mentioning that like he had a granddaughter. And then she was like, you have a granddaughter? He was like, I mean, may or may not. Because, you know, that whole genocide situation. Which again, this is why like,
flip it with it.
Right. This is why I was like, okay, now you start to piss me off. Because like, that's crazy. Like, we just dealt with the space babies, and now you tell it like you talking about your whatever. We'll get to it. Anywho, so the thing, you know, she does her little ditty. It's not a ditty; it's more of it's something else. I forgot the word I'm thinking of. But she does a little piano thing. Maestro's like, oh no, we're not doing that. So Maestro pops up on them, but they run. This is getting out of hand, actually. And he was like, bruh, I ain't about to play with whatever that is. I'm not. I'm not about to play with whatever that is, because like last time I went against one of these like godlike folks, bitch, they ripped me in half. Okay, in half. I'm not doing that again. I can't, and I won't. And I was like, period. You actually right. This is what I need the doctor to do more of. Learn. Stop doing the dumb shit twice in a row. The doctor did not know, not me. 14 maybe about that bullshit, but not me. Y'all should have never let me do the recap of this one. Anyway, after like the doctor realizes like, okay, I can like mute the situation. I don't know what happened, but used the sonic, muted the whole situation. Maestro was trying to hit a mean ass note. I'm not gonna do it, but know what happened here. You know what happened here. And couldn't hear. Just whole drowned out. But you know, they had their little tuner, they fixed it up. They was like, all right, we back. We back. But because they couldn't figure out the source of the shenanigans, they was like, let me just go find somebody else to be a problem about. A random old lady decided, you know, I'm about to hit a mean ass Claire DeLune on these hoes. She got to that piano and said, boop, 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 boop. You know, she did her little Eric Cullen. Boop, boop, boop. And, oh yeah. Maestro said, oh, no, we're not doing that. Popped up very much Bloody Mary. Very much musical Bloody Mary. Like, you play the music, you summon me, I'm going to have to kill you. Bye. Oh, lady got killed. They didn't show it, but it was their block. Anyway. Still, yeah. 15 just shookington about the whole situation. Was like, I don't know what that is. But I do recall the toy maker saying that more would come. So it's clearly one of them in a pantheon. I don't recall if Doctor Who has mentioned a pantheon before. Like, really, like, there's something gods in this. Like, we talked about gods in, like, the singular kind of sense. Like, this is a god. But I don't know if we talked about gods as a system. So that was interesting. So, yeah, like, Doctor is like, music gone. And without music, shambles. This whole world's shambles. And Ruby said, how can that be? Because I'm still right here. It's fine. He said, all right, where you, what, okay. Took her to her present day. London, completely ruined, just destroyed. Apocalypse. Some buildings are very visible, though. Like, I get the point for me to know where y'all at, but I don't think those buildings would make it if everything else didn't make it. But it's fine. We get the point. Everything is destructed. destructed is not destroyed. Maestro pop up on him. Maestro said, who is y'all? Y'all was the ones in 1963 playing in my face. And the doctor's like, I don't know what the hell going on. Where you even from? How you even get over here? Okay, like, wait a minute. Mind you, Maestro had told their little villain speech, or their little, like, woe is me story in song. They were like, my dad didn't raise me right.
It was
You
a
know
moment.
what? I'm not going to say what's written on this page. DJ saw it, though, and knows exactly what I'm thinking.
I mean, you're welcome to say it at this point.
It's fine. I'm not going to say it, but you already know that they was hiding a child. Okay. So anyway, they mad because they dad was a bad father. They're also mad at the doctor for getting their father about the pain. Their father's toy maker. Whatever. They sing a song about it.
Oh my
Christina's
gosh.
like,
Oh no.
it was a mess.
Why did you do this to me? Because now I'm picturing that child as much.
And so 15 just like, how you get over here? And then Maestro was like, a genius found the hidden chord. And the doctor was like, oh, so that means if we play that same thing in reverse, you gonna get banished. And Maestro said, no, bitch, you are many things, but you ain't no genius. And I had to go ahead and cackle. I cackled both times. I didn't even have to be high for that to be funny to me. I was like, valid. So yeah, they figure out, obviously. I feel like it's important for me to say that at this point in the episode, it is so very clear what is going to happen for the remainder of the episode that I am, at this point in my original watch, very upset. I'm like, here they go. They've been doing that bullshit. And that bullshit they do. So, they go back to 1963 because they inexplicably can only go back to 1963. Like, you know, they play a little music. Charters can only resonate with where it was or something. I don't know. Science. Then the doctor's like, all right, Pete, we know what we got to do. Let's do it. So they have Maestro and the doctor have a music battle. They have a battle with the bands. This is what they do. You know, the doctor is like hitting on the keys, up and you know, Maestro hitting that violin, giving what needs to be gave. But then the thing about it is that the doctor is like, bitch, I done been through some shit. All my life I had to fight. Okay? So I know pain. I can get this last note. I can do it. But the doctor did not get the chord. Missed it by one little note.
Sure did.
And then Maestro said, you thought. And then hemmed Ruby and 15 up. Just had them like, they used their little music notes, wrapped them on up, pulled them into some instrument. It was a whole little thing. It was giving a cartoon. It was very fun. It was a fun little moment. And then, because, you know, during that whole situation, Maestro like pushed the piano. Oh, I forgot to say, like, oh, they used the piano that was like the piano that the Beatles used to record like hella albums. So Mrs. Mills just had a lot of music energy. You know, it had a lot of that creative energy, whatever. Fine. So yeah, in the midst of all that, the piano had been pushed into the hallway. So just when we think our heroes are gonna be instruments forever, what do you think happened? Oh, it's gonna happen in this situation because it did. John,
why you hate him so much?
Because it made me mad. It made me mad because I knew it was gonna happen at the top of the episode, but it made me more mad when I knew for a fact it was gonna happen. John and Paul said, "Let me see what this piano doing real quick." Walked over to the piano. They saw the little floating notes because this is magic, whatever. And they said, "Oh, we got this. Don't yeah, all right, let's get it. Pow, pow, pow. Hit the last note. They found the forgotten chord, the lost chord,
the secret chord,
and banished. Banished good old Maestro. Maestro got sent up out of here. Oh, I also skipped the part. It's fine. Whatever. At some point before the battle, Maestro swooped Ruby up. It was like sing, like, you know, giving Ursula.
Oh yeah.
It was Ursula. It was giving the Little Mermaid. And Ruby was like, la, la, but underneath the singing that was happening, there was a song in Ruby's spirit,
Carol of the
in her
Bells.
heart. Carol of the Bells. I just put one of them little Christmas songs. Of course, DJ would know it. Was up in there, that whole thing. And my girl, so I'm going, oh, she got that stuff. And then she said they said he couldn't have been there.
Right.
He was born. He couldn't have been. And so now we know there's a he, someone out there. And so I personally have dubbed Ruby Star-Lord because that's clearly what's happening here. But perhaps I'm wrong.
I
And then,
just appreciate Carol of the Bells getting the respect and acknowledgement it deserves
I feel like
as
it's the
like
only Christmas song that ever appears. So does it need
no,
more
but
acknowledgement?
it there's a different acknowledgement of like, oh, it's in the background happening, and she's like, this is like a haunting, like powerful, ominous melody of the gods, and I'm like, hell yes, it is.
Come on now. Also, I forgot the actual end is that Doctor tells Ruby that like there's always a twist, and then he like it breaks the fourth wall to like wink it like at the camera, and then they start a musical number. Now, to be clear, when I watched it the first time, when I watched it last night when it was brand new, I was at that point at the peak, at the height of my journey with my edibles. So it was quite amusing, if nothing else. But when I rewatched the episode on this good day, I said, "Oh no, this is crazy. Why would they do this? It was just not good. It wasn't like a good musical number to me. Like it just wasn't, and it didn't. It was superfluous, which is fine. But I feel like in this episode, you actually could have done
something
else.
great. Yeah.
Like I don't know why we did this. And like I personally was like, we could never hear a Beatles song again. I'll be fine. But like, if you gonna do this thing, you so close to just doing the thing. I don't know why we didn't do the thing. So whatever. It was that happened. Clearly, I have a bias here, and it's fine. Yeah. So getting right into Cherry Chai. What did you think was strong in this episode, and what did you think was weak in this episode? Linking into it.
Yeah. Well, so part of it I mentioned already. Last episode I was talking about like how I liked the mystery being built around Ruby, and that kind of extended into this episode with the whole Carol of the Bells moment. And also we got not just that mystery and lore around Ruby, but like the toy maker, and like Nick is saying, like, oh, are we trying to sort of reframe how we see some of these characters like toy maker, master, whatever? Are they being connected in a new way? Well, the master is different because like
the master's just a time lord on that stuff.
Right. We know where he comes from, but like to see like the doctor's kind of reaction, right, to what's happening and to like the potential that's there. I was like, ooh, new lore, I'm here for it. I am curious. I think it is mostly inviting. Like I think it's always cool when it's like nobody knows what's going on for people that are coming in new. But I am curious, for folks are watching for the first time, maybe listening to us for the first time, like if it feels inviting to you, or if you feel like there's stuff you're missing. If you feel like there's stuff you're missing, you're not. We don't know either.
Right.
It's going to be it seems a discovery throughout the series. But yeah, so that I thought was strong. I really liked that they were playing with that in fun ways. And kind of like I said, the doctor's like insecurity around that, right? Like his uncertainty about these foes. Like I think it's setting the stakes for this season. I think it's like showing Ruby a different side of the doctor, and like showing us that like even the line Nick mentioned about like, oh, the last time I faced someone like this, like I was split in two. Like in the moment when the bi generation happens, we're so distracted by like the chaos of it all and like the the wow of the moment and whatever. We don't really see the doctor sit with that or like talk through it as like painful or difficult or whatever. And so I liked that callback to like, no, this was out of pot. And this was what the hell was that?
Right. This is massive.
Yeah. So I really appreciated those those 2 points.
And so I'll go into a week. I said the Beatles is very
What you gonna jump to? Do your good.
well, because you
Do
kind of
your
covered.
strong.
I already said my good. Like I already said the ones that I like. Okay,
Okay.
no. Okay.
No, you got the
I
jinx.
already started. I know. I was like, I already started. So I'm gonna just say this point. The Beatles is very floral for spring. It's very like if I had to guess, if you would have just told me, and then maybe they did, like, oh, we're gonna do like an episode about, I would have been like, oh, it's gonna be the Beatles, huh? Very like just the most simple option in this moment. Like it just was very boring to me. But yeah, come back to a good one, like a good strong thing. Jinx Monsoon was built for that role. I watch Drag Race not all the time, but I definitely watch seasons with Jinx, and I always like my motto is I root for everybody black. Like I have it's a hierarchy of like root for everybody black, then it's like people of color, and it's like I go down the marginalizations list. So I don't really like to root for just like white folks. But Jinx is that bitch. I will say, Jinx is that bitch. They are just really good at what they do. So I thought they were perfect in this episode. I thought they were really fun, very camp, but also like just hit that perfect kind of like fun, but like in a dangerous way. Like, are you? Yeah, nah, you're not safe. But like, where
No,
it's a
nobody
moment,
was safe.
right? Where it's like a moment of like you truly, like like you intrinsically know that they are not safe, but you also kind of like want to know in what way they are dangerous. If that makes sense. So it was like a really fun. They were a really fun addition. I thought they were like perfect for that, like that role. But yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't have many good things to say. It's just that like I find this episode like cool. Like that's cool. It's like I don't have hard feelings about it for the positive or the negative, which I think is fine. I think it's better than having a lot of negative feelings. Like my negative feelings are basically like I don't really like musicals, so it's not an episode I will revisit much because I don't want to be involved with that. And maybe I will because I know what to expect now, and I know to be high, and I can just be like ready. Like I can just take my little edible and have the time of my life. So anyway, circling back to my bag, because I said what I said. The Beatles is very just like the most obvious choice you can make here. And like it's not that I expect Doctor Who to be revolutionary, it's that I expect people, and I mean people, filmmakers, any storytellers to just find a new band to use to make these kind of like allegories. Like we know we know that people love the Beatles and we know they are instrumental in many ways to music, right? But they are not the source. They're not like the first band to make people have feelings. Like I don't know, it just okay. You know what? And this also might be a situation where like I'm thinking of like as a Black American, like all of these rock and roll greats that like precede the white people who are like given the their props or whatever, like or for what they did, but it's like that was built off of something. Like the Beatles exist and they had things to reference, right? That already existed that Black musicians,
Yeah.
Americans did. So
I
do
think
Little Richard, do
biggest
anybody else,
my
do with
biggest
anybody else.
issue with it was less the Beatles of it all because I do like I was saying in our Discord chat, like our BNC Discord, I want the show to grow an audience, to have a more global appeal. And I also really like when it does have like specific callbacks to like British pop culture. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
Christmas specials, there was some of that. And like I'm okay with the Beatles choice for that sake, but what made it especially like, okay, in this line of sort of painting all of music history as like developed by white men was like starting with Beethoven, right? And it, like the like because the opening scene is like the teaching of the I don't know, a child that like unclear whether we're gonna come
Yeah,
back
I
to
was like,
that
I
or
don't know what it was.
but the child that has some kind of connection with Maestro, um perhaps a toy maker's grandkid, like truly don't know. That's not the point here. The point is we start with like classical music
Mm-hmm.
by white men, and then jump into like the 60s and the Beatles and painting them as doing that work, like Nick is saying, sort of without reference points, especially to Black American music, like, and then them and Ruby like coming back and sort of saving the day. And then even with like, I love, like I said, I'm a Carol of the Bells stan. I love Christmas music. I'm like that here for that. But so much of the episode that is kind of talking about, oh, how the world falls apart without music is focused on
Mm-hmm.
like certain musicians. So like I think if they were to keep the Beatles, they could have done it in a more like inclusive, interesting, responsible way. Or to Nick's point, it could have just been like choose someone that's not the Beatles and you have to do that work. Like it's there for you. But then I feel like there was more potential for them to do that wrong than there was for
Yeah,
them to like
maybe.
do the Beatles right. You know what I mean? Because
But
if
I
they
think
had picked somebody else and then like I don't know.
I think it's also though it's the way that it's concluded, like how it comes back in the episode of. Hey, the Beatles was a safe, boring, completely like expected choice. B, they don't then sprinkle in other artists to be like, we need music as a whole thing because like they have, I guess, people randomly like playing, that's fine too, but it's like, okay. And then when they have the whole like genius conversation, again, multiple times they talk about the genius. So it's like you are specifically making this point, like these are geniuses. We get it. Because again, this is not a new conversation culturally. Like, please, surely anybody else, like there are other people. So like having them be the ones to get the last chord was so like anticlimactic because it's like obviously they were going to get it because you have hammered this point home that these are musical geniuses. Like only a genius can get this. And then also to like make it where the doctor doesn't get it and then they get it, it's also like I don't mind that actually because I like that. Like you just are not you're not great at everything. Like everything is not going to be something that you can excel at, which is life. But like I don't know, it was just too expected and too. They didn't take no chances with it and didn't do anything fun with it. There are like a lot of ways to make that fun, I think. But I think you start off in a place where you can't go nowhere, where you choose the Beatles. Like, okay. But again, like you say, it does have a wide appeal in terms of like we all know who they are, and like there's no conversation that needs to be had about it because it's kind of an established thing of like how impactful they are to music. But like people who care about music and care about history can also be like, I mean, you definitely could have went further back, or you could have went to other places in the world because when we talk about music that stops wars and whatnot, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, it's it was just a boring choice. I immediately knew, like I don't know the finer points, right? I don't know what the Maestro gonna be doing and what that's about, but I'm like, oh, music gone. Period. The Beatles bringing it back. The Beatles are gonna bring it back. Like I just knew, and it made it not as fun because I'm like, it just ain't. That's not. You're not doing nothing with that, and I'm so sorry to any fans listening who love the Beatles. I truly love that for you, and I'm not. I'm not even hating on the Beatles. The Beatles, they had songs. Um, I'm just saying that like other people also had songs. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying there are other bands. And
Yeah.
the British media needs to love its bands more because surely there is more than one goddamn band in the whole of that continent that y'all can use for these things. Because the problem is that also that this doesn't happen in a silo. Like, yes, Doctor Who is Doctor Who, and they might not have did it on Doctor Who, but baby, everybody else done did it. So you need to do something different. This is time and space. Why are we doing the most obvious thing? I'm so like it just upset me to my core. But it was cute that they got to walk across the Abbey Road. I love that for them. I love that for the visual that so many people gonna get to enjoy that. People gonna dress up like them and walk across that and take their little cosplay pictures. And I love that for them. I love that as a moment that people are gonna recapture in their own way. But I don't love
So all of that is
the
part of
choice.
it. You know
I
that
don't
doesn't
love
happen
the
outside of that choice.
I mean, it can, because they could be like, oh, we're going to Abbey Road, and they'd be like, something could be popping up. They'd be like, oh, shit, we need to go somewhere else. They not giving, they could have left Abbey Road and went to go find somebody else to listen to and be like, oh, something
Okay.
going on. Like, I'm just saying, there were other ways. Don't ask me, because I know how to write a little story. if I want to write a little story. Like, I can fix it. I now, yeah, that was it. I mean, that's it. That was it. Like, it was like not insane, but like I just felt very strongly about that. Obviously, so I lied about not having strong feelings, but it was not. It's not even bad because it's just boring. It was a boring choice. It's like not. I wasn't unentertained, not entertained, whatever. I just was also like so ahead of the show because of the obvious trajectory that episode was gonna take that it was like not fun. It was when they had the little battle. I said not the battling.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like, it wasn't like
I think I was maybe like more like I was paying more attention to the maestro of it all. That like everything you're saying is accurate. Like it's true. Like I hear you talk about it. I'm like, yeah, I agree. I see that. I think in the moment I was just more like paying attention to that side of it. Then so I was like, it was like a backdrop. But to your point, the fact that it could become a backdrop means that it wasn't yeah, you know, right.
setting.
Yeah. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't critical.
Yeah. But I did like how they utilized this format or this episode like premise to like the way the lore. Like you said about the lore. Like the way that Ruby, I like how music is just a part of that character and like clearly a part of this whole era. Like it's very clear. Like I thought it might be a thing. No, it's definitely a part of it's a through line. And I think that's they kind of establish it as like something that's important, like actually important. Like music is the language or something that's happening that like, you know, it has meaning to it. Outside of obviously the meaning of like, oh, with no music, people can't express themselves, you know, so we all start blowing each other up, whatever. Like music ain't technically stop nothing. But you know what? It's fine. We operate from hope. We on hope. We on the hope wave. But like, yeah, I did like the way that they use this story in this format to like introduce that lore and to also make that like point of like Ruby is obviously giving something different. Ruby is obviously having something going on that is extra. And I kind of like the idea that can be explored through music or through like song. I don't necessarily mean that they need to have musical episodes, but that being some kind of connection to the larger story and like I don't know the gods. I don't know. I call her Star Lord at this point because I believe that she's a child of a god, and they put her on Earth because they was like she's too powerful. We can't. We need to keep her humble. We need to make sure she don't know what she could do out in these streets. I don't know. Still working on that theory. But my point is, I like the way that music is being utilized as a kind of a way to tell her story and to like show who she is.
I mean, my week was like one of them was basically connected to what you were saying about like Ruby, John, and Paul being the folks that are bringing music back to the world. And then my other sort of week moment that's connected is just like it didn't land for me seeing the imagined Britain of 2024 in rubble. Given
in rubble, but like several very clear buildings are there.
Right. Well, so yes, one just
right.
You know, like if
just
everything else was in rubble, like Big Ben would be down too, y'all. Like that's how it
one
works.
Of those things.
But yeah, just like given all of the different images of like destruction and like violence we've seen from Gaza, but elsewhere too in recent months, and it's just like it was just a very weird of like
because it's
how can you imagine anything so horrid? And you're like,
yes. Right. That's what I was saying. I'm like,
I literally can't.
I don't.
What are we doing?
No, what I think like we have music in real life, 2024, and we still have parts of the world that look like this for the reasons of.
It was
like
yeah.
like you need to like okay. I understand again. This is one of the episodes where you know exactly what they're trying to get at. So it's like I understood immediately. Oh, we don't have music. We don't have ways to express ourselves. We are left. But it's like you also cannot put that in juxtaposition with like shit that is very much. You have to go further. I'm so sorry. Like you have to go further to be more shocking and more like, oh, can you imagine this future when like, yeah, literally I can just turn on the news to see this future. Like, and it's like, again, probably filmed before we have like a real live on the ground version that is happening, but not this is not a new phenomenon that has occurred. So you're not, it's only, that's one of those things where it's like the point you're making, understood, taken. However, you are also now putting like a value on what is worthy of
right. It's sad and
shocked
shocking in Britain,
right. And
but
so
just
like
par the course anywhere else.
right, it's like the fact that it was specifically this place that where it feels so like, oh my god, this can happen here. I'm like, half of this goddamn show taking place during raids. That's the favorite time of the past that they always want to show the damn German air raid every other day. Like, so like we know what it looks like. We know it can happen. We know like it just is not. It does not work the way you think it works. It doesn't carry your point, even though your point is clear. Like it's such a clear point, but it's like you're not
be made in other ways, right? So that's the other thing is like be creative, right? Like you could have shown people like sad or more. I don't know. Like there were just other ways.
No, you're right. Like
paint
literally,
like
you could have
kept
it visually our world without art. It could have been our world without color. It could have been like so many ways without what we see. And I'm just like, baby, you keep picking the lowest fruit. And I'm like, this is again where I get to my paranoia of like, maybe they just like don't make them think too much. Don't make people think too much. Don't give the people things to dwell on. I don't know.
Well,
it just feels
they're doing the opposite though, because we are trying to just vibe.
But
and you making our brains go, what?
Yeah,
it's
like wanting. This is the thing that I'm finding. This is like the criticism I'm having, and like I've now accepted it's probably going to be my criticism of the series. It's very much like wanting to be aware of things, right? You want to be like, we understand that like this is a real thing that impacts people, but then not going far enough to where it matters. It doesn't matter. And in some instances, that's fine. We don't have to dwell on it because I think we can use context and we can bring our own experience to it and be like, this is, whatever. But it's very much like you are taking away from like where we could have just been chilling. We could have just had a gay old time enjoying this wacky little episode, and then you have to make it something else or do something different that you didn't need to do. Because again, I think the base choice of the Beatles was already kind of boring, but I was like, fine, whatever. But then it's also like, look what happens when we don't have, and then it's kind of specifically like the Beatles. Like that's how you kind of do it. Look what happens when you don't get the Beatles. And I'm like, first and foremost, I'm sure we'll be fine. Like, at least they show that other people don't have music too. So we like, if they don't get the music, your favorite artists also don't get the music. Beyonce don't get the music. But they use the Beatles. And it's whatever. The point is, it was just one of those things where like, your point is very clear. It's easy. You didn't even need a whole episode to make the point. You could have did this point in like 7 to 10 minutes and then had an episode about something else. Or made a whole musical episode. Something else. Literally anything else. But it's the fact that you spend so much time to like express the thing and then you don't even make the best of that thing. Like, oh, it's the future. It's in rubble. It's like, okay. Hate it had to happen to them. I'm unmoved. Like, I don't know what you want me to do here. Like, A, this is what places look like now. Okay. B, if I'm being 100% honest, I do not think the Beatles specifically would do anything to a sewage situation or make it better. Like, I think you need to choose a better point. That's just me. This is Beatles slander. This is Beatles hate, apparently. I just didn't understand it. But yeah, it's just weird. It was one of those things where I'm like, you could have just did that. Like, oh, I'm gonna take you to show you what happens. And it's like, okay. Like, literally, it would have been sadder to see people like all wearing all white, like just desaturated. And it's like the world is not no color. We have people walking around with their briefcases going to work. They have no color in their lives. Everybody's dejected. No, but there's no music, but there's no like sound, right? Like they could have actually took sound out. They could have played with how we think of ambiance and just noise and like birds and singing and stuff, and it just be kind of dead silent, like a breeze. And you'd be like, "Ooh, that's weird." what it sounds like when no music. It's so many ways to do it where like you like, damn, that's chilling. But you like Destroy City, we like, bitch, I saw that today. I saw that today. Okay? Live. Like that's what they don't understand. And I get
Oh
it.
my gosh.
You
Literally
recorded this
streamed
before. Like
onto my phone.
literally. Like and again, you cannot predict what things are going to occur, but you can utilize
Right, but it's not new, like you're saying,
right?
right?
And
Like
it's like it's
this
not
has
new, and it's
been
also a thing where like it's just a better way. There was just a better way to do that. Like in even without the context of like we literally have images of this that we're seeing every single day, but also it's just like as a storytelling thing, like a real boring ass way to get that point across. Like it's just like we get it. Like it's so obvious. I literally was like so ahead of the episode in terms of like what the points would be. Like there are different things I didn't like. Oh, who's Maestro? What's Maestro about? I don't know. They out here like every other villain. They just be out here. You know what I mean? But like the actual parts of like, okay, when are they gonna come? How are they gonna fix the music? Right? And they one, you know, Maestro knocks the piano away. I said, they're gonna be in that hallway. Somehow they're gonna find the piano. And they gonna finish the like it was just so obvious and like it just made it not that fun. But I was also high, so it was kind of fun because I was high. Even though I knew what happened, I was like, "Oh, they gonna do it. They gonna play it. They gonna do it. I was like, they gonna do it." So yeah, it's just like one of those things where like it was just there was just I can immediately think of 10 better ways to do the exact same thing, and I hate that. Like I think I'm like that. My brain works that way anyway, and I think a lot of us do. Like, oh, that would be cool if it was X, Y, Z. But in this episode, it was like at every point I thought of a slightly better way to do it. At like there was no point where I was like, this is the perfect way to do this. It was like every time I was like, why would you?
You said not a single good choice was made.
Like every choice that was made was like the most, but not like the most. This is deja vu. Every choice that was made could have been a better choice. Like, were they bad choices? Who can say? But they definitely were not the best choices. Not even of the options if we are working in the framework of this episode. Because again, like, you see other artists in the studio. You see that whole room full of like people orchestrating.
It could have been the lunch ladies or
anybody.
something.
Right? The lunch lady speaking to music. Like, that's a star. We like, hello. Like, they know artistry. They know, they recognize it. Right? Like, there were just so many places to play with it that would have been like a slight subversion of what everybody, because I know I was like, obviously, you know, put the Beatles here, they're going to, and they did it. And I was actually mad, even though I knew it was about to happen, because like, y'all really did it. But then it's like, you have the opportunity, like, we are here, we are getting a different perspective. Yeah. Right. It's like, why are y'all like this? I don't understand why these things are happening. It was just one of those things. Like we talked about in the last episode, my other week, but it's one of those things that it's not, I don't know yet, but it's again, I like the explicit mention of genocide. I like that it's being named. I like that we are calling the thing a thing. Because again, when he was talking about like, yeah, you know, the little genocide. So I don't know where my granddaughter and her children and my whole entire family might be. Like they probably got God. Right? Like, yikes, sir. And it was like again, as I'm a person that also like certain things are not just do not flat me. So I will say them in a way where people are looking at me like, are you being so serious right now? But it's not genocide. It's like a car accident. I'm like, yeah, I had a car accident. And they're like, damn, bitch, you okay? I'm like, I mean, I'm not dead, right? So it's like, but somebody be like, yeah, you know, I survived. I'm the only survivor of a genocide. I would be like, bitch, I'm gonna need you to put some bass in you or do something. Like, you need to change the dynamic here because you're stressing me out. Like, it's stressful for you not to be concerned about the thing you just said. I'm stressed out because I'm like, are you okay? But so again, I like that they named it. I like they calling thing a thing, and I also like that they are like talking about the doctor's relationship to people who like his Time Lords, his family. Mm-hmm. I like that, but I don't know that I love it in the way that he's expressing it, and that happens. So I'm not immediately like, that's wrong. Don't do that. It's much more like I hope that if we're going to continue to talk about it, that we're going to give it the full weight of what it is, because it's like this is we cope, and we all have moments where things are not as bad or they are very bad. It just kind of depends. These things fluctuate. But to have the doctor, which again, we as the audience have followed this saga. We know how heart wrenching it was for the doctor to like
Right.
experience that. It was like a big part of the characterization in the earlier doctors. Then like when they brought Gallifrey back, and we like, boom, it's back. We ended the bitch, we live, and then they did it again, which is like, maybe we should talk to them about that. Like, I don't know who's responsible. Is that my who did that? But they did it again after we.
They sure did, and I
They
hadn't
was
thought about it
told.
that way
No,
until you said
I
it, but now
no, but
I'm
like it
distraught.
was right twice. And so the fact that he's like
They just be letting these writers do any damn
right,
thing.
and so and it's also because again I can understand it from a situation like this. About the fucking third, about fifth time I done felt it. At this point, like I'm over it. I can see that, but you have to be clear that that's the place that it's coming from. You have to be clear that they are not processing it in the way that it probably should be processed. It has to be acknowledged in universe that like this
Right.
is
If
cope.
not
This
by
is like
him, then by Ruby.
right. It had to be addressed within the story in some way that like this is not maybe an appropriate way, but it is the way the doctor's way, right? Like it has to like if we move through this whole season, like and that's just the vibe the whole way. It's gonna be like y'all gotta y'all gotta recalibrate this. This is not the way to talk about this. Like you can either not talk. I don't even mind omission at this point. You could just be like, the fucked up shit happened. Boom. I don't need to know more. But you are being so explicit and then not giving it what it needs in terms of the weight and like the importance of what occurred that I'm gonna need you to like step it up. But at the same time, this goes to my positive of and like what I found and I think it's strong is that like the doctor is so emotional. Other than the genocide situation, which I hate that I gotta call it that, but that's the level of cavalierness that the show is given. But like other than that, very emotionally in tune, very emotionally mature. Like this is the vibe, this is what's going on. Like honest, and not just honest and like telling the truth, but also emotionally honest. Like
Yeah.
I'm scared. Like this, I'll rip me in
Yeah.
half. Okay, like I do not have it in me. I can't do it again. Like I feel like the doctor is honest in times of crisis, but even then, it's always a partial truth or like not a full truth. This feels very much like bitch, I can't do it. Like I'm not about to do it. Like I just don't want to do it actually. And I like that because the doctor does want to do stuff. Like the doctor wants to be a help, but like sometimes the doctor be like, I ain't see shit. I don't know shit. I'm out of here. I know the doctor want to do that sometimes. Like I just kind of don't actually want to be involved. And I like that 15's like, I don't think I want to fuck with the situation. Like I kind of want to not fuck with the situation. And if the doctor wasn't trying to take Ruby to show her the apocalypse or whatever, they left. They would have left and been fine. But no, you want to go see what it looked like without the Beatles. And that's what happened. Maestro said, oh, y'all want to come over here and see my good work. And that's what happened. Doctor had to face him because Ruby didn't understand what was being said, even though it was very clear what was being said. She's like, but I'm still here. Girl, what that got to do with what we talking about? You on a time machine. But I like explain it, but it's also like, girl, you've been quick for everything else, but on this one, it's just not clicking for you. You have to see it to believe it this one time. This is where you draw the line on understanding what the hell is going on. Girl, cut it. Leave it.
Yeah, and then the like last kind of note I had for this tea section, it's just like so I'm not mad. I like you said, I thought I liked the character of Maestro. I thought Jinx played it well. Um, so I want to fully love it. And I just also feel like I got a name because it connects to some of the conversation we were having, um, about like Master in last seasons, like during Flux and such, of just like the villains being either explicitly queer or queer coded, when especially when they seem to be like flirting the line with the doctor, right? Sometimes with the doctor, it feels like queer baiting. Like it's like, oh, this could be there, but it's not, or it's like clear or it's not. And the fans do a lot of work to carry it. But then I feel like whenever there's a villain involved, it's like, no, this is being made real explicit. And I hope that we can have badass characters like Maestro and also um see queerness in other places and in other forms, or else it does with the repeated pattern become an issue for me anyway.
No,
And so
very,
that was one of the
very
things
valid.
that I was thinking of kind of leaving the episode, and like just interested to see how that unfolds the rest of the season.
No, yeah, that's valid. It's like an issue in general that like just permeates all of media. But I feel like in Doctor Who has been quite a pattern. And what's interesting is I think I don't. This is one of those things that I don't think is clocked or recognized because queerness is so just interspersed into it. Like, oh, this is a song I wrote for
Yeah,
Trudy,
there was that
whose
moment.
girlfriend like. So it's like if you're operating from a place where a lot of people are queer in this universe, then one person being queer coded does not stand out. But the problem is we don't see Trudy and her girlfriend.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
we don't. We only when we see people being queer and being like out, they are at the moment antagonizing our heroes, right? It's like
Hmm.
we don't get, even though we know that they exist in this world and that there's a lot of queer folks, like there's the whole thing of like we only get to see it when it's a person that like causing problems, and not even just like fun problems. It's like
No, like ruining humanity. Like, oh.
yeah, it's one of those things. So yeah, absolutely. That's always like a thing
And
I get very
they
tired of because
recovered it, but like the starting with the piano lesson and sort of like telling the kid like, "Oh, get away from him." I was like, I
right,
don't,
it's also like
I don't
very much
love
given like
where this is going.
right.
I
It's
think
just
it
one of
got
those things that they think they're not doing because of how much queerness is like a casual thing in the universe, which I think is fine, except on TV, like you have to point the camera at the thing. So if you're only showing queer people, like queer people everywhere. Everybody could technically be canonically queer. They can have like all the boys can have boyfriends, all the girls can have girlfriends, all the they can have they whatever. But like if you are only pointing the camera at people that are queer coded or explicitly queer and they are antagonists, that's what the connection you're making, right? Like even if you know that like, oh, but this whole room is full of queer people, right? But the person that's like got the bomb strapped to him is the queer. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
gotta be clear about these things. So you have to be careful of it. Yeah, that's a tricky one. I'm like over it in a way. Like I'm just so used to it. Like even shows that have like really a lot of queer characters still somehow do it. I'm like, how do you have this many gay people and still manage to make like this very obviously queer coded villain when you could not? Like it's weird. So yeah, no, that's a very valid point, and hopefully something that they are conscious of because I do like casual queerness in a way that like it's not something that has to be shown or like it doesn't have to be a part of the story so much as like a
Hmm.
person just in the shop with a same sex partner or whatever,
Right.
or a person that just happens to be non-binary or just happens to be trans in the broad scope of the story or just whatever. But it's like if you are if they are talking, if they are like a character, then you immediately have to think more about how they what they represent on, and that's like across anything like queer, people of color, age,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Like all you have to think about what they represent in like who like the communities that they are a reflection of, right? Like so either don't do it or do it better. And I think because RTD is queer, it's also a situation of like, oh, I can talk about like I can just do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm black. There's a lot of black experiences I haven't had. I'm not gonna point the camera at it if I don't have somebody who also had that experience, like telling me how to do it. Because I'm not about to be sitting there lying on my people because I ain't never experienced. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that life. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing that. So it's one of those things that you have to be conscious of.
Which, to be clear, is like a different criticism than saying like we explicitly don't want this. It's like no,
No, yeah, I
we're
just want it
doing it,
casual.
but you
Like
gotta do
I
it
don't
well.
mind it. Right. It's like if I'm aware. If I'm aware that you're doing it, I don't know that you're doing like it's not. Like, I shouldn't have know. It shouldn't have been something that my brain picked up on. That makes it. They should have just been a comment, but it wasn't just a comment because you made it not just a comment, and that's it's a hard line. Like it's a tricky line. There are so many things you could omit that do not negatively harm or change the dynamic, but by including it, you have now introduced something that we have to consider going forward. And it's like we could have been out here just brain empty vibes, and you not giving that. I don't want to have to talk about it, but since you keep bringing it up, we're gonna talk about it. Like we have to because you now have introduced it. So ain't nothing to be done. Um. So finally, quotes from the TARDIS. Um, which we kind of talked about, but like without music, the human race goes sour. And my comment is just the hand here is heavy. Okay. But it's allowed. We get it. I I still think there were better ways to make the point after the statement. Like, but I get it. I felt it. I knew that was the vibe, and I was okay with it. But yeah. But it also because it's so early in the or not early, but it's so recent also is what makes that weird. It's like, baby, we had music like we got very far without music then apparently. Like the like well, I guess canonically they take music. So we experienced music and everybody had it, and then somehow music or Maestro convinced everybody music was actually not the vibe, which they don't explain. And I think it's worth explaining because I don't understand that. Because then when they hear music, they enjoy it until they be like, oh, something wrong. It's a whole dynamic that you introduce that you do not explain. I was like, okay, this is fine.
Well, part of
Um,
that was like Maestro, right? Like I think that they're making people uncomfortable without the people realizing, which again,
right, no, but what I was saying was at first initially I was like, oh, why is it like we've had music before that point? But I'm like, because technically Maestro starts at whatever,
right.
1912 or whatever it was. So technically, but I'm just also like, the human race goes sour after, but I don't know. It's just weird. It's like a weird, it's fine, because I said I wasn't going to do this. Because I was like, the whole way Maestro is working. Oh, you know what though? I figured it out, or not figured it out, but I put it in my notes of like, that Maestro is like operating kind of like weaving angels, which is that it's like absorbing the energy of music unplayed, like the way the weaving angels feed on the energy of a life not lived, right? Like it's like so you need like music, like so you need to have been at a place where music was ramping up. Like I get it, I got it in my head, but yeah, it was still annoying because I was like, what? It's fine. That was a cute little thing. Without music, the human race goes sour. But I'm also like, we got music, and the human race is still a
Trifling.
little outdated. Like we still need to get tossed out of the fridge because sour has occurred. I did not say that right, but you know what I meant. I was thinking in my head, like I literally was visualizing some old ass strawberries. I can't like it was so specific. I am not high, by the way. This was a at this moment thought. And obviously, like we were talking about the queer coding or whatever, and then like the Maestro saying to 15, you might be bright and hot anytime you want me, but genius? Oh honey, oh, I don't think so. And I just like the acknowledgement in universe that the doctor is very attractive. I like that we get that that's not something that they're trying to act like ain't happening. Cause like let's not do this. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't play like this ain't a beautiful person right here. Um, but also just again because it making them feel more explicitly queer, but then also not a villain. But also kind of didn't find them that's a whole beside the point thing. But also like frightening, but also not really. That's just me though. Um, I already said sometimes genius is just hard work. I think that's a good point, and a point that they don't even try to make in this episode by literally just having any other person do their last note. But whatever, I digress.
They let their own point fall flat.
Right? It could have been a moment. It would have been so epic with the lunch lady. We would have been like, oh, she got him. She got him. Has to come back from break and do it. Like, that would have been hilarious and epic. Like, she just walk up like, oh, it's a little piano. Boop. Same thing happened. But now we all like, no, she just, see, I keep finding ways to fix it. Every moment I find a new way to fix it. Okay. The best quote, I'm gonna let DJ read this quote.
This is the I have lived, I have loved, and I can only smile like this because I've lost so much. I've experienced everything, every single thing. And if that's where magic comes from, or that's where music comes from.
Right? That's a typo.
We're close, we're almost there. I might run it back and read it again.
Right. No, okay. Yeah, it was just music. But it's kind of the same point.
Yeah, but true. Yeah. Especially the way they use it in the show, right? Kind of interchangeable. But yeah, we both had this one down, and for me, it was like I've experienced every single thing, moment, which is like I thought that this was a good capturing of the Doctor and what like endears people to the Doctor, like what we love about the character in the show, and just like it's on the one hand, it's like, no, you haven't experienced everything. We're literally seeing in this episode that you haven't, like, this is a new thing. You don't know what to do with it. And also you do have this like centuries of experience and knowledge and stuff we know and don't know and all of that. So yeah, I think it just speaks to the like mystery of the show and like the like brilliance of the Doctor. And it was just really well done. So we've seen like the not so well written lines, and then this was one of those like, ooh, this is a Doctor Who quote people are gonna like go back to again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I just love it as a thing that it said, but I also like that it doesn't end with them like also being like finding that last note. I like that it's
then
like
he gets it wrong.
Because it kind of goes to the point of like, you haven't experienced every single thing. You are currently in the middle of an experience you had not previously had. Right. And so it's like the acknowledgement of like, not really. Like, definitely it feels like it in your heart. And that's why it's so powerful, because you mean that shit and you are saying it from like the deep depth of your spirit. But it's also not objectively true. So I love it as a thing, and like how the Doctor sees themselves, right? Like how they feel about themselves. Like they like, I literally have done it all. Like there's nothing that can surprise me. And so I like the push and pull of like, oh, but perhaps this whole new Pantheon situation is also technically like about to be new for them. And like they're imagining that, but but because they so say and like, nothing new ain't never happened in the world, like in the universe. Like I just like that. I like that it's also kind of inviting them to be proven wrong going forward, which they are immediately proven wrong again because they missed that note. But I think that's like also that like them telling us like, oh honey, you have a big storm coming. Like it's a thing where like your assumption that you have seen everything and experienced everything is about to be quite like tested immediately. We're gonna keep testing you. So I like that. I like what that spells for like the future of the series and like for the season, especially given like again the lore and like what we don't know and like how Ruby like a question, an enigma, but not in the way of like frustration. They're not doing it in a way where like you are missing out on something by not knowing. It's very much like we are all together learning and trying to figure this out as a collective, right? Like you don't feel silly for not knowing. So yeah. And I just like that the Maestro also said the one who waits is almost here.
Yes.
Because is that him? Is that the same one? Are we talking about different people? Who waiting?
We don't know who's waiting.
Right. The one who waits is given like could be anybody, could be anything. So it's like it feels like if they were talking about the same person, they about to say he's coming, right? So it also is like, damn, at least two people coming to be cause problems, right? Like, so it makes it fun to think about, like,
yeah.
I was like the explicitness of the he, and then the one who waits being like
right,
a separate statement. I'm like, oh, so everybody coming. It's going to be problems up in here. Like, several problems are about to occur. So I love that. Again, following the whole, like, you've experienced, and you actually haven't experienced everything. And also, at least two people coming to cause problems. So you will find out very soon. I like both of those. Like, I hope it's a lot. I hope it's like, not that it's to a point where it's boring, like they keep introducing the pantheon, but I kind of like the idea of expanding on the idea of a pantheon and like access, like how like they clearly need to be invited in or like brought into this universe, right? I like the idea of there being like different languages and different doors that they can go through. Like, what kind of fun, like music being a door, like playing the right chord being a thing, right? Like think of like looms of fate, right? Like we think of that, like the Greek, whatever. I don't know which one of these. They have the looms of fate. Thinking like somebody knitting a sweater, but they actually unravel. Like they like, oh, I messed up my little crochet. Let me unravel this, and they actually unravel fate or some shit and like open the door, which would be hilarious. And if it happens, run me my check. Not that I think it'll happen, but you know what I mean? Just like different ways you think of like creation and all these things as language or as a part. And they did, they talk about it with the like
language
with the goblins. Right. And like just thinking about like these different mediums being like actually these are intrinsic parts of like the universe, and like there's a whole bigger thing at play. I don't know. I find that fun. So I am intrigued by the idea of there being like quote a pantheon and there being at least two beings of immense power, and one of them at minimum having some connection to Ruby. Like I like that's the kind of puzzle I like. I like a puzzle where I don't feel like you are trying to get one over on me or try to like make me feel or look stupid. I like a puzzle where it's like genuinely every time a piece fits, it's like, oh, I love this. Like the picture gets not that it's more clear, but also that it becomes more beautiful as a picture because you are like, oh, look at that thing, right? Like I don't know. So I am excited about that, and I think that part of the story is being done well to this point. Like the parts that are like that they're including about Ruby are done in a way that feel like when we rewatch the season, we probably really appreciate those things because there will be a context for them, right? Like we'll be like, oh my goodness, wow. I also want to say I think that the musical number is setting us up because they're like, oh, there's always a twist at the end. And yeah, at the end of the episode, of this specific episode, there are the twists at the end. But I don't think they just make it to this episode. They definitely talk about the end of either the series, like season, whatever this is, 14 or whatever season we on, and or like the end of the era. Like I feel like that is they telling us like whatever you think how this gonna end, it's not gonna end that way, which I would love because I'm like y'all starting to piss me off.
Well, and then they had the little kid like pop up again,
right? And it's like again, who is this? Whose man is this? Because again, we talk about, I just had a thought, but anyway, yeah, I'm interested to see how like if they're gonna play with the pantheon and like other, I don't know, beings that are like summoned through some kind of human ingenuity or just foolishness, because that is probably what attracts some of them. I think that's the last. Let me check. That's the last quote.
Yeah, I had one more that was just like the doctor reflecting on again when he was like terrified, trying to figure out what's going on. And he pulls a little trick of like letting the sound go out, but then Maestro is able to undo that. And so Ruby's kind of like, oh, you don't have to be scared. You were able to do the thing. And the doctor's like, no, one trick once, that's what you get with the gods. And I was like, oh, this is like Nick is saying, like we're building steps up to something that just
Right.
seems
Yeah, when they
so
said
much
Pantheon,
fun. Yeah,
I was like Pantheon, and my first mind was like, "Oh, we getting into the god, right?" And then he said that, you're like, "Oh, we ain't." And I thought it was like just a word you said, and then not. So yeah, I like that. That part feels intentional and very much like we getting into some shit. But I also just loved it because, like, baby, we fooled them twice. Okay,
yeah.
they not about to let it happen, baby. Like these are God. These are beings of immense power. They're bigger than the universe. They're not gonna get caught slipping twice in the same exact way. That's just not gonna happen. Yeah, I love that. I am interested to see what the lore will be because I do think one of my favorite things about the earlier seasons of the show is that like they are very casual episodes when you watch them one by one, but then when you see how they fold into that bad wolf, for example, like it's so satisfying because you like, oh, all this little random like it just doesn't really, it's not like there's the obvious thing where you see bad wolf, but it's like so much more than you realize in that moment. So I kind of love that. I like a little sneak link. I kind of hope there's like also misdirection. And I think that's happening. On what I will not say, but I do think there's like multiple levels of like we think we are watching this thing and we are kind of low key watching this other thing, and I hope I'm right. Just because I just like being surprised in general as a person. I just like to not know what's happening. Because it's just easy for me to like even things that seem inexplicable. My brain will be like, I somehow think XYZ gonna happen, and I'm right a lot, and it makes me mad. I'm like, hey, I wish it wouldn't have. That's not a good story, but that's what I thought was gonna happen. So I kind of hope it's like a level of there is a very clear story happening, an arc happening, but there's also like a secret third thing. Like when it's revealed, like it's like when it's revealed, we're gonna be so like it'll reward some of the things that we are not sure about or just don't think are important in this moment. So hoping for that. But yeah, I think that is everything. You can find us at blacknerdscreate.com, on the site formerly known as Twitter at BLKNerdsCreate, and everywhere else at BlackNerdsCreate. Talk to us on socials using the hashtag Tarbis and tell us what you think about the Devil's Chord. Oh, BNC Baddies can join us for recordings of the episodes. So stay tuned to Patreon and or check the baddie channels in our community to find out how to join. We will be talking with y'all next week and going forward. So, bet.
Bye.